Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of High Buff Courtside. My name is Jason. As you can see, the two people that I normally do this podcast with me are no longer here. They left the pod, but that's okay. Listen, it's okay. New Celtics season, a lot of stuff to get into. I feel like I haven't been on to kind of talk about my thoughts, even dating back to the Tatum injury, how they left out in the Knicks. There's just a lot of stuff to get into. But I think I'm going to leave the Knicks stuff and the Tatum injury kind of in the rearview mirror since it's been like 5 months since it's happened. I kind of want to move forward and talk about the Celtics this year and kind of my expectations, considering there's a lot of new faces. There's a lot of change. So let's get into it. So I think we all have to start at the trades that the Celtics did to kind of get under that luxury tax. New owner comes in, Bill Chisholm, clean slate. Let's get back to where we have flexibility for future moves and whatnot. So fine. So we get rid of Drew Holiday. Fine. I'm perfectly fine with this. Send him to the Blazers. You get Anthony Simons, who's a good player, by the way, and he costs you. I believe he's $27 million for this year alone before he becomes a free agent. So listen, fine with that move. You ship KP to the Hawks. Again, I'm fine with that as well. You know, Hawks aren't really too much of a threat. I guess I have to look at everything through a different lens now because I'm used to the Celtics being such a juggernaut that they kind of aren't that anymore. So you kind of have to picture how they'd play against these type of teams now without all the players that they had. So I guess in theory, the Hawks should be a good matchup for the Celtics whenever they play. But again, KP, he kind of fizzled out, didn't help at all in the playoffs last year. That mystery illness, I don't even know what it was. I don't even think we even knew what it was, or if there's no description of what it is even now. That's besides the point. Luke Cornett goes to San Antonio. Again, good money for him. I guess maybe if he came back to the Celtics, he wasn't really going to get that money. But hey, he backs up Wemby. Good fit for him. He signed a long-term deal, and he deserved it too, by the way. I think Luke did a lot of the dirty stuff here. Excuse me. Did a lot of the dirty stuff. Didn't really get as much minutes as maybe he would have liked. And I think in San Antonio, he'll probably play a similar role with Wemby, getting most of the minutes, or maybe he plays in the same court with Wemby in the 4-5. Who knows? And then also J.D. Davidson, of course, leaving, even though he did nothing really. He went to the Houston Rockets, I believe, play with Ime. But, I think with these moves, it kind of tells you that the Celtics, I believe, and this goes again, and I'll ramble because I'm by myself and I think of different things to talk about. The Celtics, this last year, 2026, is really going to be the last year that they could have this giant super team where they could compete. Granted, Tatum's injury, whether he had it or not, whatever the case may be, this is the last year for these teams or for the Celtics to have this type of team where they could go out, spend unlimited amount of money and compete. So with all the trades and the Tatum injury happening, it's kind of like they did this a year earlier where they're like, all right, boom, blank slate and let's go. And that's sort of how I look at it. I'm not upset at any of the moves. I feel like it was necessary. And a lot of the times, Celtics fans, they get upset, that our team maybe isn't going to be in the top 5 this year in standings. But at the end of the day, this Celtics team should be a fun team to watch every night. They may beat some good teams and they may lose to some really bad teams. It's going to be a roller coaster. And a lot of people have to realize that, this team isn't perfect. The one thing that I do worry about that just happened last night, I believe, Jaylen Brown hurt his hamstring. Whether it's a minor thing, intermediate, or a long-term thing, this year, Jaylen Brown proves, am I a 1A? Can I be a 1A? And I think when you talk to people around the Celtics and you talk to people around the league, this is his year to show everyone. There's no Tatum, at least through the new year. Again, I don't know when that dude's coming back. He's already dunking. I think he wants to play. I think he wants to play now, to be honest. But when I look at the Celtics now, it's Jaylen Brown, it's Derek White, it's Peyton Pritchard, it's Chris Boucher that they brought in from the Raptors, who has a great story, phenomenal. I love the dude. I love everything he's about. I love what he brings to the team. Anthony Simons coming off the bench or he starts or whatever you get out of him. You got Hugo Gonzalez, who they drafted, who to me right now looks like a guy that's going to need work offensively, but defensively, he's going to give you 110% every night. The dude is going to be elite defensively. So I'm not too worried about that at all, to be honest. He decent draft pick. You hope he sticks. You hope he doesn't go back to Maine because they need bodies. Our front court depth. Yeah, no, I mean, Nemi at the 5 to start. He can't shoot threes that well. Is he the best rebounder? Probably not. Then you got Luka Garza coming in, another guy who the Celtics feel like, and Brad said this, they feel like in a elevated role, they can get more out of him than what Minnesota gave him. So I just look at it in the standpoint of, can these guys, these fringe guys that they brought in, Josh Minut, I think his name is, don't know if I'm pronouncing it right. These guys that they brought in, fringe guys, can they elevate this Celtics team to be a 5, 6, 7 team in the East come playoff time? I don't know. I haven't watched these guys on a consistent basis with their previous teams. Just because, obviously I'm not getting Minnesota Timberwolves games every night on my TV. It's not possible. Or Portland Trailblazers for Anthony Simons. You just got to see how they mesh. You got to see how they play and how we're getting buckets. God forbid Jalen misses any time. What are we going to do? Who's going to be our primary scorer? Derek White? I mean, I guess. But I think that's some of the things that you look at with the Celtics team is, you kind of have to lower your expectations, but also not too low because their nucleus, even without Tatum, is still pretty damn good compared to other teams. And I think with the East still being semi-weak, Cleveland's probably up there. New York Knicks are definitely up there. Indiana's going to take a major step back with no Halliburton, and Miles Turner goes to the Bucks. Talk about backstabbing. That dude, he'll be hated. He's hated in Indianapolis for the rest of his life for doing that to them. So you never know. Celtics stay healthy. They play better than we think. Top 3 team, not out of the question. At least in my eyes, I don't think so. So you really have to look at it in that standpoint. But as far as this preseason and watching this team play, I'm not going to lie to you guys. I don't watch a ton of preseason just because I don't think preseason really tells the whole story about what these guys can do. Yes, is it good to see them, dunk and shoot threes and beat up on some G Leaguers? Sure, 100%. But I want to see this team go against the Knicks fully healthy. I want to see this team go against the Cavs fully healthy. So just stuff like that that I look for personally. And whether we see the team excel or not, time will tell. But I have stuff written on my phone that I want to get to. I touched on Hugo, decent draft pick, where you drafted, obviously. I mean, you weren't going to get much really better than that. They are trades. Also, to touch on the George Niang thing, that's such a grab-ass trade by Brad. You just flipping him to Utah just to get his salary off the books, and you get RJ or Ruiz Jr., and you end up waiving him yesterday. I mean, talk about grab-ass, but whatever. The outlook to me of this team really, if you're a fan, we're all fans here. Anybody that's watching, we're all fans. Our expectations of this team and the roller coaster ride that's going to be, you're going to have nights where you're going to be down on the Celtics. Guaranteed. You're going to be down. You're going to think the future ain't bright. You're going to think, there's work to be done. And there is, trust me, especially on that front court. And I truly don't think that this team is going to be this team that starts next week is not going to be the same team that finishes the year. If the Celtics are if this team is worse than we think, there's a great possibility that a lot of these fringe guys like Simons, Garza, Minut, you could flip them at the deadline and get some draft picks. And I think that's the good thing about the season is again, I've talked about it. It's going to be a roller coaster. This team could be either really good and you add at the deadline, maybe. With Tatum coming back, that's an ad, I guess. But like to surround himself with better talent, or you're bad and you trade away your loose ends and you restart for 2027 with Tatum fully healthy, and you can maybe swing a trade for a center. For me, if we're going to look at center options, right, and we're going to play that game of, how do you improve this team, at the trade deadline or in the next offseason is, I think Vucevic over in Chicago needs to be a Celtic. Great rebounder, can shoot the three, plays decent defense. Oh, I almost forgot. We didn't even talk about Al Horford. I have some thoughts about Al Horford. Some may not be liked by a lot of Celtics fans, but that's just because I'm not the biggest Al guy, just because when he left us to go to the 76ers, I thought that was kind of like a scummy move to a degree, like I think him leaving and saying that the Tatum injury infected his chances of coming back to Boston because he wants to win. But then you go to Golden State and you're going to go to the West that's packed. Like, do you think Golden State is better than the Rockets? Do you think they're better than the Lakers fully healthy? Do you think they're better than OKC or Minnesota? Like, I don't know. Like that. Steph Curry's another year older. Jimmy Butler, another year older. Draymond Green, another year older. Al Horford, another year older. Like, those guys just, I don't know if they could keep up with a lot of the younger teams. And don't sleep on the Phoenix Suns, by the way. They got Jalen Green over there. They got Dylan Brooks. Their identity has changed along with Booker. They got KD out of there. He's in Houston now. Like, that move to me didn't make sense. Now, if he went to go join the Knicks in a backup role, or he went to go join the Rockets for some weird reason, or the Suns or Minnesota, like, okay, like I get it. Like, you're playing with some damn good players who have something to prove. Steph Curry's won a bunch. Draymond Green's won a bunch. Jimmy Butler has not won a chip, but dude's always motivated, I feel like. Even if it doesn't look like it in the regular season. Playoffs, he still always pops out. There just was better spots, in my opinion. Even the Lakers, too. God, I know the Lakers wanted a center. Even you got Ayton, but can you trust Ayton? But anyway, I think there's a lot to look forward to as a Celtics fan this year. But I would caution your optimism for the ability to understand that this team may not be what we think it is. And a lot of green teamers, a lot of people, listen, I love the Celtics, but I also like being realistic. I don't like not being realistic and trying to hype up a team that doesn't deserve to be hyped up. Yes, we have great players on this team, but we also have a lot of unproven players that are coming from teams that did not get a lot of minutes last year. Will they thrive with more minutes? Will they make a lot of more mistakes with more minutes? Who knows? But I am looking forward to the season. These podcasts from now on, they may not be as long as your typical podcast, but I think that may work for some of you guys who can't watch a lot of things for a longer period of time. I am still looking for another co-host. It's tough when you switch from multiple people, every year and you're rotating out. It's tough to build chemistry. So, if you see this video and you watched all the way through and you're interested in joining me, our socials at High Above Courtside on X is a great place to DM, and I'll get back to you, and we can have a conversation. But I think from now on, as you'll see these videos will be, I like to post every 3 games, especially my work schedule. I like to post every 3 games to digest the last 3 games. So there's more to talk about. This video I just wanted to get out to kind of, give my thoughts, but not get too much into the, the weeds of it, give my thoughts on the surface and kind of give you guys an update on the pod. And I'm excited to start up again. It's different. I've never talked to myself in the camera with nobody here on a podcast, approaching 15 minutes. And it's, for me, when I talk, I can ramble a lot. So I have to be like, I need to have like a script and like, so I don't go off to other points, but, yeah, hopefully you guys will join in. Should be an interesting season, that's for sure. There's going to be a lot to talk about. Not going to be like previous years where we're just blowing everybody out every night and there's really no narrative to talk about. I do want to mention one thing, though. That media versus Celtics coaching staff game was hilarious, and I think it was rigged. think it was rigged. Listen, the media ain't that bad. There's some ballers on that media. They can play, no doubt. But it was good to see Joe give the media credit for being competitive and taking that game seriously. I think Joe's a great coach too. And this is where I'm rambling because now I'm getting into the Joe stuff, but he's a great coach. A lot of people give him, crap just because, you have a super team. There's really not much the coach can do. But this year, we're really going to see how he coaches. Lesser team, more pieces that are going to need harder coaching than in the past. We'll see how it goes. But that will do it for me on this episode. I greatly appreciate anybody that watches to the end. Like I said, these podcast videos will probably be about 15 to 20 minutes. Just giving my thoughts and whatnot, and we'll go from there. But you can follow at High Above Courtside on YouTube and on X. And I will see you guys in the next one. Go Seas.